Have you ever found yourself getting ready for a first meeting and you're nervous and maybe a little excited, but mostly anxious because you want to make sure that that first impression is just completely amazing? I've been there. Many other people have been there. And I'm going to share with you today the only 2 things you actually need to think about whenever you're meeting somebody for the first time, so you can make sure that from this day forward, every time you have a first impression to make, you make an amazing one. My name is Adwoa, and you're watching an episode from Adwoa.com. If you haven't heard the name Amy Cuddy before, seriously Google it. I feel like this woman is a freaking social genius. She's a social psychologist and the author of the book Presence. And in her book Presence, she tells us the only 2 things we actually need to focus our attention on to make sure that each and every single time that we're meeting someone for the first time, we have an amazing first impression with them. There are essentially 2 questions that you and I and everybody else, regardless of culture, regardless of background, regardless of language, are asking themselves when they meet you for the first time. And those 2 questions are, can I trust this person and can I respect this person? So as simple as it may sound on the surface, if you're anything like me, you're probably asking yourself, well, sounds wonderful, but how in the world do I establish trust and respect in a first time meeting that could be 30 seconds, it could be 2 minutes, or it could be 2 hours, right? It could be any length of time. So how do you maximize that time so you make sure that person leaves you feeling like, yeah, I can trust this person, yeah, I can totally respect this person? Well, the good news for you is that we're going to spend the rest of this video talking about how exactly you can do that, because there are little things that you can do that can have serious impact. When you're establishing trust in a one-on-one conversation, 7% of that is about the words you use. 38% of that is about the tone of your voice, and 55% of that is about your body language. We all know that eye contact is super important when you're trying to establish trust, because people are not looking at you and they got shifty eyes, you automatically think that they are up to something, right? So I totally get it. Now, you don't want to stare a person down because it's not a staring contest, right? Like I used to have with my brothers and stuff when I was growing up. No, you want to make sure that it's a reasonable amount of eye contact so you don't look like a psycho or a stalker, but you don't look shady and shifty. So what is that number? Actually, science tells us that the ideal time span of eye contact so that a person feels comfortable and also thinks that you're trustworthy is 7 to 10 seconds. So feel free to lock eyes for 7 to 10 seconds without coming off like a weirdo. Now, another aspect of the body language, which again is 55% of the trust message, right, is mirroring behaviors. There's some science to this. Researchers actually conducted a study with MBA students, and they were trying to teach those students business negotiations. As they taught them the tactics of business negotiations, they also taught one group of students to mirror the behaviors of the person that they were trying to negotiate with. The other group of students did not get that coaching, so they did not mirror behaviors. In the group that mirrored behaviors of the person that they were trying to negotiate with, they closed the deal 65% of the time. The group that did not do any of this mirroring closed the deal only 12% of the time. So yeah, mirroring does in fact help. Just remember to take it easy. If they lean in, maybe you lean in. If they tend to rest their hands on the desk, maybe you rest your hands on the desk. Use your best judgment, because there is a fine line between this person is similar to me and this person is a lunatic. If you're anything like me, you have heard at some point in your life, it's not what you said, it's how you said it, right? Tone actually does matter, and we've experienced it a lot of times, right? Where somebody says something to us and it's not that the words they used were bad, but their tone just sucked in our mind. I gotta tell you, it's hard to hear that feedback sometimes because you don't always know what's the right tone. But believe it or not, there is a right tone. And it's actually the tone that you would normally use in your day-to-day conversation. So your normal tone is the right tone. Men and women tend to lower their voice and lower their tone when they're speaking. It's usually a tactic, whether we're aware of it or not, to project confidence or authority. But that's not actually what resonates to the person that's receiving your message. People notice that differentiation in your tone and they start to question your authenticity and the authenticity of your message. So it's better to use your normal inflection, your normal tone, because people will see that, recognize it, and associate that normality of your tone with a genuine, authentic, trustworthy demeanor. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the trust factor is the words, right? We said 7% of the trust message comes in the words we use. So I don't want to focus as much on the words you use, but the speed in which you are using them. I tend to talk fast, so if you've seen my videos throughout the course of my time doing this site, you know, some of my videos in the beginning were like, and some of my videos were a little bit slower. But the speed in which you speak is actually really important. So I have learned to slow down my speech. I've gotten feedback one-on-one that you talk too fast. And the reason why it's important to slow down your speech is because when people think you speak too fast, they think you're trying to get over on them. They think that you are trying to slip some stuff in somewhere that they may not pick up. And it's going to get them in trouble somewhere down the road. People want to know that they can trust your message. They want to know that they can hear and understand clearly everything that you're saying so that they can actually respond and process the information and not have to worry about signing off on something that they didn't even know that they were signing off on. Okay, so Amy told us trust and respect. So we've got the trust factor. I think you guys have a ton of information now so that you can be armed to establish trust in just a matter of seconds with some of the things that we've talked about today. Now let's switch and talk about respect. So how do you establish respect, which I actually think is a trickier philosophical conversation to have, because respect feels like something that's built over time, right? But it can be established even in an initial conversation. It can just be magnified and proven over time. So let's talk about how you can establish some initial feelings of respect even in a short conversation. Let's talk about words that you're using again. I don't know about you, but I feel like there are certain words in our society that we have become way too comfortable using. Like, I have to, or I can't do, or no one will let me do. Oh my goodness. Those words are incredibly common. You've used them, I've used them, we've all used them at some point. But let me ask you this. When a person tells you, I can't, I have to, somebody's making me, or they won't let me, does that make you feel like they are somebody in control and who has a good handle on what's happening around them? Probably not so much, right? It makes me feel powerless when I say I can't, I have to. And it makes me feel like somebody else is powerless when I hear them say that they have to and they can't. And who respects people who feel like they have no power? Instead of saying I have to, how about you say I get to? I have to go to this meeting. I get to go to this meeting. It has a completely different tone to it, doesn't it? And if you are somebody who's consistently coming across as if even opportunities that seem like complete drudgery are at least a little bit fun and exciting, people are a lot more likely to respect you as a person, period, end of discussion. The other thing that I want to talk about that really builds respect, even in a short initial conversation, is listening. Listening and seeking to understand. Everybody respects a person who is not only listening to the words that come out of another person's mouth, but is also really trying to understand the meaning behind the words. So take the time, and it is time, and it takes practice to listen to a person and the verbiage they use and not assume you know what they mean. If there's even a shadow of a doubt around what they could mean about that, just ask the question. Seek to understand. People like talking about themselves, and people like talking about their thoughts. So if there's an opportunity for them to share a little bit more insight into how they think with you, yeah, you are totally getting some respect deposits in that bank account. And the third thing I want to talk about when it comes to respect is about your attention. We live in a society that is full of distractions. It could be a text message, it could be your Apple Watch, it could be somebody walking by that you think you know, it could be just a random thought that pops into your head and suddenly you're distracted. Giving your full attention can be really, really hard, but you've got to do it each and every time you're interacting with somebody. Really focus on what they're saying and be engaged in them. Because so few people do this, especially now in our society where we're so accessible, when you do it, you get instant brownie points. I have had senior leaders come up to me and go, I was watching you at a meeting. I didn't even know I was being watched, by the way. And they said, you were so engaged with everybody you were talking to. I didn't even realize I was being watched to that respect, which also tells you that you never know who's watching. But you do have to engage in every conversation with anybody you're talking to at every level, no matter who they are and no matter what it's for. Because that is a sign of respect. That's an immediate sign to a person that you respect them because you're taking the time to actually listen to what they have to say. Now, there was tons of information that I just shared with you in this video, so hopefully you were taking lots and lots of notes. And if you weren't, just press rewind, please, and go ahead and just jot some stuff down because I want to make sure that you're getting the most out of this video and the most out of your first impressions. But if you're like me, you want to make sure you understand what you do with this, right? So I totally get it. I'm very practical, so you can use the information that I just shared with you in any social situation. You can use it at work, you can use it at home, you can use it on dates, you can use it with your friends, you can use it anywhere. And you don't have to use the whole shebang, you don't have to use every single tactic we talked about, but you can pick and choose the ones that feel comfortable for you. This will take practice, and it's not a race, but this is going to seriously give you a leg up on any and everybody because nobody wants to fail on a first impression because it takes way too long to make up for it on the back end. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and if so, I really encourage you to share it with anybody you think needs a little bit of help to make sure that they are ready for their next first meeting. And if you feel like you got some serious FOMO and you do not want to miss out on anything else that I'm dropping, I totally understand, and I encourage you to sign up for my email updates over at adwoa.com so that you are among the first to know anytime I drop anything new, and it's delivered right into your inbox each and every week. Don't forget to check out my social media sites. I'm on Twitter, I'm on IG, I'm on Snap, I'm all over the place. So feel free to follow and join in the dialogue so that we can make sure that you have this amazing career and an amazing life. The corporate world needs that unique gift that only you bring. So go out into the world today and act with conviction. Be courageous and live joyfully each and every day. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I cannot wait to see you again at next week's episode.